The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great. Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Well, good morning and welcome into Off the Bench. What a surprise! 2 times in a week. Let's go. But it's kind of get a host on a somber note because here in Cincinnati, we didn't get the best news yesterday. We're going to talk about, obviously, the Trey Hendrickson stuff. Reed Mouse filling in for Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing, Casey McAllister in the room. All Severance fans, guys. It was an episode. There was an episode last night.
Barely.
Yeah.
I mean, 37 minutes and nothing.
I didn't get to watch last night, but I
didn't miss.
That's what I hear. So I'll watch it sometime this weekend. I saw a movie last night, which I'm sure I would have rather seen Severance because that movie stunk.
What'd you see?
Mickey 17.
Ooh.
Oh, really?
I think there's a level of weird to movies I'm okay with. That crossed about every level of weird that I could handle. And there was a point during the end, I think it was like a 2.5 hour movie, where I just started laughing. I went with a friend of mine, and I turned at him halfway through. I'm like, this is brutal for me. I'm sure there is certainly a market for that type of sci-fi movie, but boy, it was weird. It was just strange.
I was going to say, that movie seems interesting and has really good reviews, something that is on my watch list.
Yeah.
But that's not a glowing review from you. I will admit that I watch weird movies with my wife, who is very down the center lane, right? Like when we watch a weird movie, she's just like, this is terrible, Reed. And I'm like, no, like you got to understand this. This is why this is happening. And look at the cinematography. It's really pretty shots. And she's just like, no. Yeah. So that was your experience.
Well, yeah. And it's like, I don't even think it was like there was that deep a message. Like I was trying to find something in the movie that I could talk about afterwards. And it's like, no, it's just, no. And I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it's just like a sci-fi space movie. They're up in space and that's it. And they got clones running around up there. So that's it.
Fun.
Yeah.
But for Severance, I would just hold off till next week.
Just wait.
And just double down.
Yeah.
That's what I'm telling you, you're not missing much. I mean, there is one kind of big thing at the end of the episode, but like
we're still not in MDR. We're still not back at the office yet.
No, we went up to like Alaska.
Yeah.
We went somewhere.
We were hanging out.
Some drugs were taken.
Haven't seen the boys in a long time.
Oh boy.
It was close. Well, the drugs they were taking reminded me of watching like It's Always Sunny. Like Charlie always huffs paint. Yeah, they were huffing. Casey, speaking of huffing, hey, I don't know what that means, but yeah, sure. Hey, Casey.
Hey, I guess. Huffing and puffing over here, I guess, over Trey Hendrickson. But yeah, Severance, I think I sent a text in our group chat that like the first 15 minutes of the episode, there's only like 50 words spoken. I mean, it was just
hot garbage.
Yeah, it was just not a great episode. But
we needed a good episode based off the news. By the way, Elliot, on this show, you are famously like the guy, the Bearcats lose, Reds lose, Bengals lose. We come in and we just give you a segment. We just give you 15 minutes, and it's like there's like a weight on you, and you just let it all go.
That's right.
You just let it all go. You rant and you rave, and you're just like, all right, this team sucks. I hate this team, yada, yada, yada. I don't think anybody flies by the seat of their pants more when it comes to a fandom more than Casey. Casey wants so desperately to just love the Bengals. That's all he wants to do. He just wants to just give them his heart and soul. And then when something bad happens, he hates them. Like with all of his might, like borderline gonna leave the team. In fact, he sent me a video of his cat playing with toys the other day. And in the background of this cat playing with toys, he's just ranting to his wife about how he hates the Bengals and wants to pick a new team. And it was just really funny. Casey, I'm so sorry that the Bengals aren't the best ran franchise ever.
There's just not much more you can say. We're pretty sorry. Are
they the worst ran franchise ever?
I think Casey.
Not the worst.
Casey, I think what you're going to start doing is what I do is when something doesn't go my way, I just root against the whole thing. and like if Trey doesn't go, I'm going to cheer for T to sign somewhere else too. And I just want a bigger reason to pout. That's what it is. So if you want to do that, you can start. You can enter the pout wagon with me.
I don't pout very, very good. Like, there's some serious pouters in this room.
There are.
It's true.
I'm miserable to be with when I pout because I'm not fun about it. I just constantly will berate and hate on whatever I'm pouting about. And that's just not fun. But yeah, I mean, like I just, my fandom, it's very finicky. It's very fickle. And the news yesterday, it just broke my spirit. It just broke everything. It broke my brain. It really did.
The thing that parents, when they teach their young children not to pout, the thing they don't tell you about pouting is it works. And that's why parents don't want you to do it, is because they know if you pout long enough, like you'll get their way. That's the thing that big parenthood is misguiding you on. Pouting works. You can be a 28-year-old person like myself, and pouting still works to this day. I do it with my dad sometimes. I do it with people in this room. I do it all the time. And it works. I have a question before we get into headlines, and it's kind of a vague question that maybe is better suited for later on in the show, but I'll just throw it out there because that's what we do. We just have fun, and we just let it rip. We just fire from the hip. Is ownership in the Bengals holding back the franchise more than it is across the banks? Across the Reds, like, is ownership holding back the Bengals more so than the Reds?
I think that's a tough argument to have because if without the salary cap in baseball, if the Reds had owners with money, they could just be the Dodgers. Like, if you had rich owners, you could just pay everybody. So I guess no, but in the same sense, the Bengals ownership, any other team in the league that has a franchise quarterback would put the pieces around them to try to win. So I think you're right, but they're both. I guess my question revolves around the fact that in the NFL, you are the rules are so there to make it as fair as possible. Yes.
Fair as humanly possible. Like, everyone gets kind of this base. Yeah. I mean, you're making profit in the NFL before you sell a ticket.
Yeah.
You are in the green before you sell a ticket. And that being said, the poorness and the cheapness of our franchise is holding us back, which is just so frustrating.
Yeah, listen. If the question is who's had more success, it's the Bengals, it's the Brown, it's the Blackburn family, it's everybody up there. Like, by far, it's not even remotely close, not even a discussion. Saying that, there is less of an excuse to not do your job over there. As Jacob just said, the salary cap, as Reed just said, everybody's profitable. You have money. There's no reason to not do it. And as everybody said, James Rapine, every Bengals reporter in this city has said, every national reporter, you have the ability to bring back all three and then go sign more. You have that ability to you, and you're not going to use it. That's why it's more frustrating. So in terms of who fails more, I mean, clearly the Reds ownership, with 6 winning seasons in 30 years, they take the cake because it's inexcusable no matter how much money you look at it. I mean, it's a joke. Saying that, the Bengals, I'll tell you what, their inability to change. We can sit here and say that they change, and they've changed, and they changed the name of the stadium, and they bring up at the Ring of Honor, and all this stuff. They're changing. But at the end of the day, they haven't really changed at all when it comes to actually running an organization. So that's the big crux of the issue. So no, I don't think the Bengals ownership and Mike Brown and the Blackburns, they're worse than the other side. But boy, I will say they have certainly less of an excuse, and they never live up to anything.
It is certainly frustrating. We have a super chat from KP from KC. $5 super chat. The Bengals are essentially Ginger from Casinos, and the fans are Sam Rothstein. We love something that doesn't love us. I'm barely hanging on. I haven't seen Casino in probably a decade, and it's a really good movie. But I'll be honest, the pop culture guy over here, this is a big pop culture room. That one's almost going over my head because I haven't seen that movie in so long. I know that Sam Rothstein is Robert De Niro. I know that Ginger is his wife that runs around on town. But that one's going over my head. So sure, yeah, that one plays. We have Paul Fritchner later on in the show. He's coming on at 11 o'clock. We're going to talk about Muskies, college basketball, all that good stuff. But here in the waning moments of headlines, Elliot Rearing Headlines.
Headlines. One more super chat real quick. Nate, member for 12 months. Thank you, Nate. Bengals are a professionally run franchise by common 9-to-5 workers who conduct business like they cannot afford a $10 lunch. If only they decided to just up their standards to a $15 lunch, we sign Trey.
I want, so when it comes to ownership, and I guess we'll just do headlines in the second segment at this point, but when it comes to ownership here in Cincinnati, everyone wants to put pressure on them to sign Trey, to sign T, to sign Jamar long-term, give these people what they want. If the city of Cincinnati could pressure the Bengals ownership to do one thing, I want the Blackburns to sell a piece of their stake.
Yeah.
I want them to sell to private investors, as other teams have. Famously, the Eagles. I don't know if you've heard about the Eagles and what their front office is capable of doing. It's because they sold portion of the franchise. The reason it won't happen, of course, is because the Brown family is a little too sentimental to an organization that Paul Brown started. They, in fact, bought the majority stake. There was two majority owners. They bought, and now they own, I think, 90-something% of the team. Just sell like 10% for a couple $1 billion, please, so that we can make these moves, so that you can renovate the stadium, so that if you sell stake in the franchise, a lot of the problems go away. Do you get less ownership stake? Of course. Do you get less control of the team? Of course. But it'll solve a lot of problems.
You could start serving your players 7 days a week of food. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, they have 5 now?
I think they're at 5.
Speaking of which,
5 days,
you know what?
And they don't get all meals.
No. What do
They
you
don't get all the
expect?
meals.
Speaking of which, I'll volunteer us. We're already pretty busy here at Chatterbox Sports. I'll volunteer us 4 in this room. We'll be the daycare service.
Yeah.
Like if you need daycare, sure, bring the kids on up here to Hamilton. They can run around the studio. We'll make sure they're taken care of. That's what we'll do. You know what? Do your part here in Cincinnati. I'll be the daycare coordinator.
There we go.
Come on, we'll play with blocks. I'll teach you how to read. I don't know if I can do it that well, but we'll do it here. No more Fs, because guess what? We are at least a C daycare organization here in Hamilton, Ohio. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to go to headlines brought to you by Elliott Rearing. We're going to talk more about the Trey Hendrickson stuff later on in the show. You're watching Off the Bench, and you're listening to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Reed Mouse filling in for Justin Kenner on a Friday. Welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Reed Mouse filling in for Justin Kenner. The Wright State Raiders, I think, just keep on moving on in the Horizon League. I think that's where he's at, or did they lose last night?
They lost.
Okay, well, he's on the road home. He's on the road home, and we'll find out about that in headlines.
Score updates, breaking news, local and national headlines. Whatever's going on in the world of sports, Elliott has you covered. Off the Bench brings you Elliott's headlines.
No? It's all right. Headlines. College basketball. We'll start there. MVC. This is when I start running down some of these, respectfully, these no-name tournaments, conference tournaments that are happening. I love it. I love college basketball. These small conference. I love to bet on them. I love to watch them because I feel like everybody's got a little chance here. So it's fun. So I'm going to read a lot of them. I don't think there were really any big non-conference championship-wise yesterday, but
I'm going to ask you to say the full name.
Okay.
The full name of the conference.
Okay.
Let's try. The MVC.
Missouri Valley Conference.
That's right.
Valpo, they upset Illinois Chicago yesterday 67-50. How about that?
Valpo has been on Chatterbox.
Valpo has been on Chatterbox. The OVC, Ohio Valley Conference.
That's right.
V's got to be layups.
Got to be layups. Lindenwood's season comes to an end. 14-point loss to Tennessee State. The Summit League got that one. St. Thomas, Minnesota crushes Denver. They advance, keep their season alive. The Sun Belt, I've heard of that one. Old Dominion, they hang on to beat Texas State 64-61. There was one last night.
Sunbelt does the gauntlet.
Which
Yeah,
one?
their
The Sunbelt
bracket's
does the
best.
gauntlet.
Oh,
to
yeah,
where
yeah.
You got to win like 6 straight games if you're a low
Yeah,
seed.
yeah. 8th-ranked Michigan State, they got a road win against Iowa last night, 91-84, to take the outright Big Ten regular season conference title. So good for Michigan State. Moving over to the Horizon, this is where we find out about what happened to Wright State. Well, they got blown out. 83-62. 83-62. Our NKU Norse unfortunately lost as well. Their season comes to an end. They lost to Cleveland State 68-63. So NKU and Wright State eliminated from contention. The Atlantic Sun, Lipscomb, they survive in overtime against Queens University. And I'm just ripping off some names here. Navy, American, and Arkansas Little Rock, they keep their seasons going, as does Colgate, Bucknell, and Murray State. So a lot of little guys moving on to today, and that will obviously continue throughout March, and that's why March is the best.
Queens University, where do you think that is?
New York.
In Queens? You'd be wrong. It's in Charlotte, the Queen City.
Okay. Wow.
Nice.
Wow.
That's good stuff.
That is wild. What conference that was that? Atlantic Sun.
Yep.
Atlantic Sun. Going over to the NBA, the Lakers, they have won 8 games in a row. They erased the Knicks' double-digit lead. They win in overtime. Luka had 32, 7, and 12, while the King had 31, 12, and 8. 113-109, the final score there. They're prioritizing health, and it's working. Lakers 8-0 in their last 8. The Hawks, they defeat the Pacers 124-118. Siakam's 35 points, not enough in that one. The Celtics, they crushed the 76ers on the back of Jason Tatum, who had 35. When you close your eyes and you think of Jason Tatum, you think of this. You think of 35 points and a win.
I see 26 a night.
You see 26
and
a night.
That's nothing.
The Warriors, they stay hot with a win over Brooklyn. Curry dropping 40 points there. And that is it for the NBA yesterday. Going over to the NFL, some NFL news. We obviously are going to talk about the Trey Hendrickson deal. It is of note that the Rams offered the same deal to Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford came crawling back when he saw how nobody wanted him. So there is a chance that this is all a smokescreen, and Trey's just going to come right back.
Two teams did want Matthew Stafford.
Well,
Two teams
offered him more money than the Rams
$100 million.
Well.
How much respect would you have lost for Matthew Stafford if he would have done a money grab at age 40, being the second highest paid quarterback in NFL history? Because I think I would have lost a lot of respect for
I
Matthew
wanted him in
Stafford.
New York pretty bad, so I wouldn't have been mad.
Okay, like if you want him somewhere else, that's still but like the fact that he is 40 years old, has made the second most money in the history of the sport, only trailing Aaron Rodgers. He's in a situation living in a beautiful city.
Oh, yeah.
Where he's
On a competitor.
What?
Like on a contender.
Right, like if a few things go their right way, they're in the NFC Championship. But he wants more money? And it's not like he's like getting paid $10 million. Like he's going to get paid 35, whatever he's getting paid in LA. Just for $15 million extra dollars, I would have personally lost a lot of respect for Matthew Stafford if he went somewhere else. Because while I am pro player, make your money, go out, do it. Get the bag. This is a job for you. Go make as much money as possible. I mean, at some point, it is a game too, right? Like if you're 27, that's fine. 28, 30. When you're 38, 39 years old, however old, I think he's 36. Matthew Stafford, just stay in town. Just stay where you need to be.
I don't know if I would have blamed him because I don't know if it was his call. Based on the podcast that his wife does, she was the one that broke the news that he kind of wanted to go elsewhere, and maybe she's like, I'm tired of LA. I wouldn't
reportedly the one that negotiated part of the contract to have him back. So yeah, she's pulling all the strings. They reported yesterday she has a lot of control in the Rams front office.
Really? All right. Going over,
much like most of the marriages and the people that watch this show.
Moving over to the Jaguars, they're just calling it quits. Christian Kirk has been traded to the Texans. You'd think for a lot for a 2026 7th rounder. a 2026 seventh rounder for, at one time, was he the highest paid wide receiver?
He
Did
was
have that
the
title
most confusingly paid wide receiver.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think it was like 3 years, $88 million or something silly like that. So it was nonsense. Speaking of the Jaguars again, they've released Evan Ingram after 3 seasons. I think that's a name that if you're a Bengals fan, you say, hey, maybe we run back the tires on another old, aging veteran tight end. Let's do it.
If we can't keep Gesicki, I'd love Evan
Can't
Ingram.
keep
I think they're
Gesicki.
very, very similar.
If I listen, do you think that we have a good chance to keep somebody
Yeah.
after not keeping this guy, after not keeping Trey?
Oh, yeah. So we're going to trade Trey for a while.
All right. Well, I like your call.
I was gonna say, I would say that Trevor Lawrence is upset, but he also just doesn't care about football, so he probably
he's
just doesn't
fine.
mind at all. He's just like, yeah, sure.
No,
Who
no,
am I
no,
gonna
no,
throw
no.
to next year?
There is
For
something
that
going.
cash check.
yeah, I guess. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence, not the. I don't know if you want your franchise quarterback to not like football. I feel like that's
Probably
probably
not.
something that he should
Probably not.
care about.
like the Angels when they signed Anthony Rendon.
Yeah.
If you're gonna make a $200 million investment on a player to help your team, it doesn't have to be the main requisite, but it's got to be up there that they at least enjoy the game. Similar to, like, I always bring up Adam Dunn. Adam Dunn famously hated playing baseball. He was just really good at hitting the ball 400 feet. So he just went out there and did it. But the second that he felt like he made enough money, he's just like, yeah, I'm done doing this.
Yeah.
The big donkey.
And by the way, Anthony Rendon, that's another name for later. That could be another name for later. It's certainly a villain now.
There was a story written by Yahoo Sports at the Combine after Liam Cohen and the new Jaguars GM talked about Brian Thomas and how great he was going to be.
Sure.
That Brian Thomas was the most overrated player in the NFL because he's not even the wide receiver one on his own team behind Evan Ingram for the next 2 or 3 years. Obviously, Evan Ingram's now.
We'll just take care of
flipping
that.
burgers.
Flipping burgers. Okay, and then finally, the Bills, they agreed on a 4-year, $50 million deal with linebacker Terrell Bernard. So those are your NFL headlines. Moving over to Major League Baseball, former Red and Guardian Tyler Naquin is back with the Guardians, this time as a pitcher. I guess this is a thing that's happening more and more now. Guys say they can't hit anymore. Let's just go throw and be a pitcher. I don't hate the move. So good for him. He will be back at least on a minor league deal with them right now. He'll even invite to camp. So good for our good friend Tyler Naquin.
Hector Rodriguez just turned 20 over the summer, the prospect we got for
Yes.
Tyler Naquin in the trade with the Mets. He's hitting 292 in his
Okay.
minor league career with a 340 OBP.
Okay. How about that? Vladimir Guerrero, he has come out and publicly stated that his final offer to the Blue Jays comes well under the Juan Soto number at under $600 million. So if the Blue Jays want to play ball, they're playing ball at under $600 million, which I think is a little bit of pressure, maybe to put on the Blue Jays organization there, make them look kind of bad. And finally, we have the Athletics. The Athletics continue their offseason. They extend Lawrence Butler. Had a very, very good year last year. 7 years, $66.5 million for Lawrence Butler with a club option as well in there.
They're paying some people.
They're paying some people. It looks like, I guess they don't have to upkeep the terrible stadium anymore or ballpark. So we're just gonna keep spending money on players. Good for them. It's worked.
So that keeps Lawrence Butler there an extra 2 years,
I believe so.
presumably.
With a club option, I think.
I was going to say it keeps them there an extra 2 years. I think Bryce Spalding, a friend of Chatterbox, was talking about, is this good parameters for a Matt McClain extension? A similar deal in that vein. And pretty quickly people were like, I think probably not, because Matt McClain, there's a big question mark about what we're going to see from Matt McClain this year, that him signing an extension seems silly. Because what if he booms like he did 2 years ago, and then we've got him locked away? It'd be a team-friendly deal, I guess, is what we're saying. And I think Matt McClain is a Scott Boras product, so that likely won't happen. But we'll see.
I'm hoping the Reds start getting deals done. I mean, we've learned our lesson here with the Cincinnati Bengals. What happens when you sit on your hands? So if the Reds are proactive and they believe in some of these guys, they believed in Hunter Green, and that turns out to be one of the best contracts I've ever seen. A lot of people hated that at the time, didn't like giving Hunter Green some confidence with, I think, $8 million, $9 million.
Were you pro that contract when it came out?
I think I was at the time. I think I said they didn't need to do it, but I was saying that it's incentive based, so I love that. So if he plays well, you pay him more money. Yeah. If he doesn't play well, you're paying him $9 million. which is well under market as a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. So I think I was 95% in on it. I think there was 5% of me that's like, I haven't really seen anything from him, so why give him the money? But if you're looking around, if you believe in, I don't know, the Reds fan base is torn on guys like Andrew Abbott and Nick Lodolo. If you believe in them, you can get them, I think, for cheap. I don't know what Nick Lodolo would cost for an extension.
I don't know.
It's hard to imagine it's over what Hunter Green got. So if you believe in any of them, get them done early. CES struggled last year. Maybe now's the time.
This is Nick Lodolo's final year under a rookie contract, I'd assume. This would be his third year in the league, so he'd then go to arbitration next year. So it'd be a little different. He'd probably have to pay a little more than what Hunter Green, especially with inflation and stuff like that. The question is, and I was very pro the Hunter Green, and obviously that looks like a slam dunk now. The reason people are pro these extensions for young players when you're a small market team is because it doesn't work unless these players are good. Yeah, you're taking a risk on giving these players a lot of money up front, but it doesn't work unless Ellie De La Cruz is really good. It doesn't work unless Matt McClain is really good. It doesn't work unless Hunter Green, name the guys down the list. Unless these guys are really good, the Reds won't do a whole lot. That's what I said when I hosted the show, I believe over a month ago, is that the Reds aren't in the position to get ceiling raising guys in the open market. They're just simply not. You're not going to get a perennial all-star in the open market via free agency. You're not going to get a bona fide ace in the open market in free agency because you don't have the money. The guys that raise the ceiling are the guys that you get internally, the guys that you develop, the guys that you draft, the guys that you can trade for when they're young. So that's what always raises the ceiling. And as I mentioned, I'm always pro those extensions because it doesn't work. It simply doesn't work. And you might have to sit on your hands on a bad contract for a Nick Lodolo who looks bad in 4 or 5 years. But if Nick Lodolo isn't a bona fide 2-3 in your rotation, then what's this whole thing worth?
Yeah, that's fair.
And if the guys fill out what you expect them to be or hope they're going to be, you have no chance of signing them anyway.
Correct.
So as soon as you get an inkling that someone could be a star, you should start working on something. Yep. That's why we talk with Ellie all the time about what's the deadline for an extension. I know we have him for 3 or 4 more years, but the deadline feels like it's coming up because, if he plays well and is competing for MVPs in the next 2 seasons. Right, that's what I'm saying. Like last year it felt like a killer in terms of trying to extend him long term, which is just crazy to think about when you have a guy under control for so long.
There was rumblings, though, of, a Graham Ashcraft extension, I know, at one point. So it's like all that. And you look at it now, it's like that definitely wouldn't have worked. So I think there's pros and cons, but pros vastly outweigh the cons in extending guys early. I did forget to put this in headlines. Chase Wellman, shout out to Chase Wellman, he brought this up. 95% of bets are on the Reds to go over 78.5 wins. It is the most bet team to go over their win total. The most bet team to go over their win total.
Does that make you feel good or bad?
That makes me feel horrible, truly horrible. And I don't know if I don't know what the vibe is. I guess the national media is spewing out the Terry Francona propaganda, which I'm all for. But boy,
managers don't matter.
Managers don't matter. Sure it is. I think that if the Reds go over their win total, then I think the world will unite, and maybe we'll all be Reds fans. It really will be America's team because 95% of the country has got the over.
I think the Reds going over their win total doesn't mean a damn thing. That's they win 80 games, and that's fine and dandy, but if they don't make the playoffs or anything, it's still a huge failure of the season.
This
so
is
the fact that the win total is so low.
No, this is the year of the positive, Elliot. I'm going to take that as a win.
Yeah.
Okay. They win 80 games, finish below 500. It's a win.
Might as well be a playoff win.
All right.
Might as well be a playoff win.
It's funny because last year before the season, we were pro. We said 83, 84 wins. Is what you're looking for, get you in the postseason. Mm-hmm. The Cubs got 83 wins. They were 7 games away from the postseason.
Yeah, it's tough.
Cybertruck just drove by. That's interesting. You don't see those in old Hamiltucky. But we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we are going to talk about the Trey Hendrickson news. And yes, Bearcat 101, I do like buttons. Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. All right, a lot of takes circulating about what's going to happen with the Bengals going forward, and there's a justifiable pessimistic view, right? That's what is warranted with what Joe Burrow's been saying, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Now Trey Hendrickson for the second straight year has asked to be traded, and we have obliged. We said, all right, we'll see, go test out the waters, go talk to other teams and see what the market is. And you get on X.com last night, and like I said, there's takes circulating. The most prolific take is that this is all crumbling down. Trey Hendrickson won't be here next year. And while that seems likely, it's no secret that I am the optimistic Bengals fan. And for some reason, until I get the push notification that Trey Hendrickson has been traded away, I am under the opinion that Trey Hendrickson will play for the Cincinnati Bengals in 2025. Here's my reason why. I think Trey Hendrickson saw the Max Crosby news. I don't think it's an anomaly on why. I don't think it's coincidence on that the Max Crosby news comes out. The next day, Trey Hendrickson asked for a trade because they were likely in contract disputes. They were likely in extension talks, and the Max Crosby news breaks, and they go, all right, that's what I want. I led the league in sacks. And you know what? If you're Trey Hendrickson, you have absolutely every right to think that way. You are pretty much alone on an island here with the Cincinnati Bengals. Everyone doubted you when you came to the Bengals, said you were a Cam Jordan merchant, and that take's been put to rest. And teams can focus on you because you're the only serious pass rusher on this team. And that being said, you still lead the league in sacks. I saw a stat that he had over 40% of the Bengals' pressures last year. And you looked at the list of other defensive ends that have done that, other defensive linemen that have done that, and it's a short list of Hall of Famers. So when Trey Hendrickson thinks that he's going to get $30 million out on the open market, he has every right to go out and seek that. The problem is I don't know if he's going to get that. And that's where I think that Trey Hendrickson will be a Bengal. And I know that's the optimistic view here in 2025. And to be honest with you, I don't even know if it's the best thing for the Bengals. Because what does playing one more year for the Bengals get them? Unless they obviously win something big, they go on a big run. It doesn't. You got an opportunity to get something out of an asset. Here's another reason why I think that Trey Hendrickson will be a Bengal next year. I think Trey Hendrickson's going to go out and talk to these teams. Maybe he finds a suitor that will pay him what he thinks he's worth. And that team, knowing that they're paying a premium for an edge rusher, aren't going to want to pony up. They're not going to want to pay Trey Hendrickson $30 million and then give a first or a second. So if we think that the Blackburns and the Browns call all the shots here in Cincinnati, imagine this. Just imagine this. Trey Hendrickson finds a suitor. We'll call it a random team, Las Vegas Raiders. I know that's just a random team. They're willing to give Trey Hendrickson $30 million. But in that, they say, all right, we'll do it. We'll give you your extension, and we will give you a third and a fourth for Trey. When that trade comes back to the Bengals front office, and they go, all right, he's found a suitor. It's a third and a fourth for him. I just don't see Mike Brown and that family saying yes to that. Yeah. I just think that they'll look at that and say that's well below what we want to get for him. There's a reason that this team never makes trades. Similar to why there's never trades in your fantasy football league, because everyone thinks they have something more than they've got. And I just think that when it all comes to its head, they'll sit on their hands. And what did we say with what did Jay Morrison, James Rapine, everyone that came on this show last year or came on this show to begin this season? Mike Brown doesn't blink. And maybe I'm way off base. I've been wrong before more times than I've been right in my life, as my wife will tell you. I just don't know. I just got this weird feeling that Trey Hendrickson is going to play for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's going to be in stripes in 2025. Will he miss some games? Will he hold out? Will he pull a Chris Jones like he did for the Kansas City Chiefs a few years ago? Probably. But come week 8, week 9, week 10, when those game checks aren't coming to the Hendrickson household, he's going to want to play. your opinion on what's going to happen with this Trey Hendrickson news. Jacob Tissett, host of Chatterbox Bengals.
That's right, and shout out to Casey for hopping on with me yesterday to talk about this right after it happened. But yeah, I think obviously Trey Hendrickson, phenomenal Bengal. Maybe the best free agency signing in the history of the organization. Back-to-back 17.5 sack seasons. He's incredible. The defense would be better with him on it. The defense would not be better with him on it at $32 million. Every other edge rusher that's going to get this Max Crosby level deal this offseason, Max Crosby, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett if he gets moved, these guys are all top shelf run defenders. Trey Hendrickson's not that. Trey Hendrickson's one of the best QB pass rushers in the entire NFL, and I'm not taking that away from him. And he's going to be a crucial piece to whatever team he's on next year. I hope that's the Bengals. But that part of that $30+ million to an edge rusher means you're an every down player, making impacts across the line of scrimmage on pass and run plays. Trey Hendrickson just doesn't provide that. The number I was always comfortable with was topping out at around $28 million, $29 million. I think getting over the $30 million threshold for Trey Hendrickson, especially with the guarantees that Crosby deal put in as the parameters for a top edge rusher, I don't think that's the right move for the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, the thing we always talk about with all of these moves are what's most important is the plan to replace a great player. If you let Trey Hendrickson walk and do nothing to replace him, it's terrible. If you keep Trey Hendrickson for a year on the end of this contract and do nothing to replace him after he walks for free, that's terrible. If you extend Trey Hendrickson and put nothing around him, the defense is still terrible. So it doesn't matter what you do with Trey Hendrickson. It matters how you address the problem around it. And obviously, if you lose Trey, you're losing your best player. You're losing your only edge rusher. But there's so many other problems on this defense. If the Bengals reinvest that money and multiple players across the defense, I think this can be an overall positive once you incorporate the draft compensation as well.
Yeah, I was thinking about it last night, and I'm not mad at the idea of trading Trey Hendrickson. I didn't think it was a crazy thing to do, because I like Jacob just said, I don't. When I look at the offense and I look at the defense and I say, do I want to take away something good from something that's already terrible, or do I want to take something good away from something that's really, really good and make that lesser than what it is while still being terrible on the other side? I'd rather take away from the lesser and just make it as bad as it can be. I know that sounds terrible, but that's the truth. I think you have a better chance scoring 40 and fighting down the stretch as long as you don't turn the ball over than improving. I don't know how many defensive players we'd add if we re-signed Trey, right? Now, and again, in a perfect world, if this organization was any bit of competent, they would have gotten all these deals done. They still would have gone out and got talent, and they would have drafted well.
Correct.
That's what the bottom line here is. Now, I don't think that I don't think that Trey would have. I don't think Trey would have made the difference next year to help the Bengals be successful. I think he's very, very good. He's elite, but when you talk about paying edge rushers and talk about playing defensive guys that are over the age of 30, I don't know if Trey's on the list. I would put him in. Jay Morrison tweeted out yesterday. It's betting that the Bengals are betting that Trey will not play at a level equal to the kind of money that he wants. Yeah. In 2018, the Bengals gave Geno Atkins at age 30. They got 14.5 more sacks for $65 million after he got to age 30. So, I'm okay with the Bengals moving on. My issue, though, is that all of this could have been done had they been just a little bit proactive.
Yes.
The Bengals are a reactionary franchise. They're not a proactive franchise. That's why what you're seeing right now, all of this unfolding, it all could have been solved. They could have done all this. T could have been brought back already. Jamar's deal could have been done last offseason. Right? And you look at Trey Hendrickson, and it could have been done earlier. Now, I will say, I think Trey Hendrickson, and this is the part of sports, this is old man Elliott creeping in here. I do think it's like if you're contractually obligated, I wish players would obligate the contract. I still do wish that. It's hopeless thinking, and there's no point to talk about it. But I do think he had a year left. Play the year. And maybe that's what the Bengals, and that's kind of what Reed was saying too. You don't want to play, that's fine. You're just not going to get any money. And if you're willing to, if you're not willing to get any money whatsoever, then that's what we're going to do here. So I really would. If they want to trade him, trade him. If they want to keep him and have him hold out, or at least showed him that, listen, we're okay with you holding out if you want to lose all your money. I'm okay either with whatever direction they want to go with. It's just frustrating that it all comes to this moment, and now there's even more pressure to get T. Higgins and Jamar Chase done.
That's the worst case scenario for me.
If they don't,
you either trade him or you extend him. There is no reason you should be sitting there in week 1 with him on this roster if he's threatening to hold out. That is too much distractions. You have to figure something out. If you can't get an extension done, which I think is sailed, then you got to work to trade him. And if it's for something you're not incredibly happy to get back, that's the position you put yourself in. I think that's better than having him hold out into camp.
Well, that's what's frustrating, because out of the 3 scenarios, I think the most likely is that the Bengals go into next season
correct
with the contract that they currently have. Trey Hendrickson doesn't get the deal that he wants, doesn't get the extension. The Bengals don't like any trade suitors that are currently there. Elliot, you said something interesting. You and I are in the same camp about. You said it was old man Elliott, play under your contract. I think we agreed last year when Trey Hendrickson threatened to retire. We made a big joke about that. We said, listen, you're under a deal. You signed the deal. You got the wrong end of it. Sometimes there's team-friendly deals. Sometimes there's player-friendly deals. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Trey Hendrickson after a career year leading the league in sacks on a team that wasn't very good, and seeing what other edge rushers are getting, notably Max Crosby 2 days ago, there is absolutely nothing wrong for Trey Hendrickson trying to capitalize on that. Understanding what we know, that when you get over 30, this game gets a lot harder. What's the old cliche about the National Football League? It's the not-for-long league. You have that 30 hump. There's a reason the Bengals don't like signing guys. They've been burned there before. They don't want to be burned again on over age 30 players. So Trey Hendrickson is trying to capitalize on his historic season, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think we all know that the Cincinnati Bengals are slow to move. Once again, Elliott said they're a reactionary team. They are. I thought they were becoming more proactive. That isn't the case yet. I still hold out hope that there will be. That what will happen is what I think likely is the most likely scenario is what I started this segment with. He's going to go out. He's going to seek either an exuberant amount of money that someone will pay for, but the trade package isn't comfortable enough for the Cincinnati Bengals, or the package, the extension that the Bengals want to offer isn't suitable for Trey Hendrickson, so we're in this stalemate on the chessboard, and we just look at each other like, what's going to happen? And we get to week 1, and Trey Hendrickson says, I'm not playing. And we go out there, we trot out the Bengals, likely lose because that's what happens in week 1 in this city. And we go, Trey, would you play week 2? No, not going to play. And what's his deal, $15 million right now?
Yeah.
So his game check of just under $1 million doesn't come through, doesn't hit that direct deposit. And that happens for a second straight week. And eventually Trey's going to look at his team, because Trey is a competitor, and he's a great one of the best Cincinnati Bengals that I've seen in my lifetime. A true joy to have in this franchise. He's going to look at a team that needs some help on the defensive side. He's going to look at his family and go, all right, we got to start cashing these checks. And he's going to go out there and play. And hopefully, I truly hope this, though it might not be the best thing for the Bengals, probably the best course of action is that Trey Hendrickson plays. It is just a good player, 10 sacks, something along those lines. But I hope Trey Hendrickson comes out and plays and he balls out like he did this year. And next year, he's an unrestricted free agent, goes wherever he wants, and he gets every dollar that he's earned. It's not the best thing for the Bengals, but I hope that for Trey. That's how I think this is all going to lay out. As I've mentioned before, have been wrong. I've been wrong. I think last year I called Sheldon Rankins the answer, the Chris Jones of the Bengals. I said, you look at Super Bowl winning teams, they get a pass rushing presence in the center of the line. Obviously, that was an absolute disaster. So I've been wrong way more than I've been right, but I continue to look at things as the glass is half full, not half empty. I think Trey Hendrickson will be in stripes in 2025, and I hope I'm right. I'm right.
Do you think that the Crosby deal, once that was inked, it started this, or do you think this was always going to happen no matter what?
I think that they were in extension talks, and whether they were close or not, I do not know. I think they were sitting down and talking. And then when the Max Crosby deal got inked, he said, okay, that's what I want.
Yeah.
And they weren't close to that in the extension talks.
Yeah, I think any report that they were far apart pre-Max Crosby extension is unfounded because there's no point there to have a model to go against. After the Crosby extension, there is zero chance the Bengals could match that. So I think as soon as that happened, they're turning their blinders to T and Jamar and moving on from Trey. I think the answer was always 2 out of 3 because you're going to have to focus on these guys. So spending your time, getting all 3 done, that's why you should have done at least one of them last offseason.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes there's no question that the Max Crosby deal is the catalyst of this whole thing. And like I said, that's okay. I think Jacob looked at me right after the Max Crosby push notification came across the wire, and he said, "This isn't good." No. And no, it wasn't. No, it was not.
Bengals extended a pass catcher though. Breaking news.
Ooh,
Tanner Hudson.
that's who you want.
So we're moving the needle. If we
They
remember
extended
week one last year, Tanner Hudson keeps us out of the playoffs. We reward him with a 1-year extension. Whoopee!
We're going to talk more Bengals talk. I want to get
terrible.
Casey's opinion. Obviously, he was on Chatterbox Bengals yesterday, but I want to get Casey's opinion on the whole Trey Hendrickson news when we come back. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. 1410 Wing M. The Bengals front office strikes again, inking another franchise-changing deal. Tanner Hudson extension. Casey, I teased before we went into break that I wanted to get our ace producer, Casey McAllister, diehard Bengals fans' opinion on the whole Trey Hendrickson news. We went to break, and Casey went into another layer of hell. He's in Dante's Inferno. I'm not sure what ring he's in, what center of hell, but it's close to the bottom. He's getting real far down there with his Bengals fandom. But Casey, obviously you're on Chatterbox Bengals yesterday. We've been talking quite a bit about Trey Hendrickson, the news. What are your thoughts on this whole situation?
Well, I've got a lot of mixed emotions, obviously. Very, very emotional fan at the moment. But some of the things that we already mentioned, like, the baselessness of the reports that the team is not close to a deal with Trey and T and Jamar. Now they feel a little more real in a sense after the Crosby deal hit the table. They allow Trey Hendrickson to seek a trade. Now those claims feel a little more real. It feels like maybe those tweets and the Instagram posts from Jamar and T feel a little bit more real, like there is a major gap between these guys and the contracts that they're trying to negotiate. And that's what really scares me. I agree that there is a foreseeable plan in the work with the Trey Hendrickson. Like, you can potentially hold out and still get him in the regular season. I would hate that. That's the worst case scenario for me. I think trading him is better because then you know what assets you have. You get the money, so then you can get more free agents. But there is no plan if they are going to have these negotiations past free agency. Like, they will not spend money on external guys, and then it really is paying for the exact same team that you had last year, which was not the plan that they proposed to us. It was, we're going to sign these 3 guys, and we're going to add, because they have the money to do it. Now it's so up in the air. Like, if they don't get something done by Monday, which is when the legal tampering period, right? That's when you start hearing about these deals being done. is Monday, which is 3 days from now. There's no way that they're going to be able to build out a team that's going to be competitive for next year if they don't have at least Chase done. Like, they got T. Higgins on a franchise tag. It's not ideal that you go into free agency with that, but they're not making any more moves, or they shouldn't be. Over here, they got Tanner Hudson signing an extension. Why are they even at the table with that dude? Get the other guys done. What are we doing? You got Jackson, Kirkland, and now Tanner Hudson done? Congrats. Good job. All your focus should be on the other two. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. It's unbelievable what this franchise has done for the last couple of seasons.
I think what you said there too, though. Like you said, what's the plan? I think that's my biggest question too, because I don't think they have a plan.
Yeah, their plan is just completely torn up, shredded, and thrown.
They had a plan.
They had a plan.
They had a plan.
Max Crosby screwed up the plan.
It is correct. They had a plan. Max Crosby screwed up the plan. But in terms of just roster construction of the Bengals, 2 years ago, I commended the Bengals for thinking ahead. It for the first time in my life, it looked like the Bengals were ahead of the chessboard, right? It looked like they were thinking in the future, not just taking things right now. Like financial planning, they're like, hey, let's put some money in the 401k. Let's do all these things. Let's make an extra mortgage payment this year to get ahead instead of just working paycheck to paycheck. That's what it looked like for the Bengals. Unfortunately, their plan was ripped to shreds by some bad free agent signings, by a hurt Joe Burrow. And the one thing that I think has amplified this situation, it has amplified the noise centered around the Bengals from national media, from local media, from our fans. What I think has amplified the emotion that the players are feeling towards the front office, towards the franchise, is quite simply this. You've heard this phrase before, and it's true. Winning cures all. And the Bengals went to the Super Bowl, went to the AFC Championship. All was riding high. 2 straight years missing the postseason. So now this team, with a lot of noise, right? Because teams have a lot of noise. A lot of teams have a lot of noise around them. The Chiefs have had a lot of noise around them for years. But no one cares because they keep winning. It looks like they are well at controlling that. Who has more noise around their team than the Philadelphia Eagles? We were saying fire their coach at their break. But they keep winning. So you forget about it. The reason that all this looks so terrible is quite on top of failure from some free agent signings, failure to make these extensions. It just amplifies the noise. It's a megaphone to the voices, is losing. If the Bengals were in the AFC Championship game either of the last 2 years, especially this past year, all this just kind of seems for naught, right? Like it's noise, it's worrisome. But in the back of your mind, you're like, they'll be able to figure it out. Now you have all the questions in the world. Like, I don't think they can figure it out. I don't know what it is. It just amplifies the whole thing. And that's I don't know. Casey making a big noise about making a big what to do about.
I mean, we got
Tanner Hudson and Jackson Kirkland.
That's ridiculous, Casey.
Listen, those meetings.
It has nothing to do with each other.
It's not like they're having
this 15-minute block is
5-hour meetings with Tanner Hudson to get this deal done.
I know.
What happens is Tanner Hudson comes in the room and they go, all right, Tanner, $1 million. Here you go.
You also don't have tight ends that can walk on the roster. I think keeping Tanner Hudson's probably a good idea.
Listen, I'm not mad that they're keeping Tanner Hudson, but that's not a priority.
It should be. Extending those guys should be a priority.
No,
you need to keep bodies on the
he's
roster.
not a priority. He is a practice squad guy.
You can do multiple things at once.
He's our tush-push guy. He's our tush-push guy. Don't belittle Tanner Hudson. He's our tush-push guy.
Extending Tanner Hudson has zero impact on T. Higgins and Jamar Chase.
Well,
Zero.
I think it should. You should not leave the table after Sunday without a deal done with both those guys. You should not leave the table.
And extending Tanner Hudson doesn't change that at all.
it's the priority. It's the focus. Like why
It is
aren't
bad.
they?
It is bad optically.
Yeah, it's
It
just-
is.
It's
You're
bad
right.
optically. It doesn't mean anything.
It's
I'm with
literally
you,
a practice
Jacob.
squad guy.
I'm with you, Jacob. But it does add worry amongst the fans. But like, why are we talking with Tanner Hudson when we should be talking with those guys? And I get it.
Like, there's
I'm with
another
you. It's
tight end on the
probably
roster
literally
we
a
want
5-minute
too.
meeting.
Like,
It's literally a
what are we
5-minute
talking
meeting.
about,
It's like,
man?
here's the contract, sign this, sir, and then they move on.
Don't you always want to save the best for last, Casey?
Yeah.
Save the best for last.
Because
Takes
that's
a long
worked out
time to
That's
great.
what
get
we're doing
extensions
here.
done with good
I understand.
players.
I understand what you're saying. I do understand what you're saying. But that's like what the Tanner Hudson meeting's like. Hey, like Mike Brown just texted him. Like, hey, you want to come back or no?
right.
And then he's like, yeah, sure, I guess. And then it's like, okay, we got that one done. We'll tweet it out. We'll make the graphic. That's to me at least what that was. I don't think that's showing up anybody. That's just basic work that they have to do to keep the roster.
That's a deal they could
maintained.
do at any moment, at any time.
So why not just do it now?
Because it's so bad optically.
It's
And
bad
you
optically
should be
for people
putting
that think
all
it
your
affects
focus.
the other
You should put
deals.
all your focus on your cornerstone players. Simple as that. That's just my
tush
philosophy.
push guy is
You
a
could talk to
cornerstone
multiple
player.
people at once. You could talk to T. You can talk to Jamar. You can talk to Trey. Like they should have been doing this whole time, and they probably have.
You can't talk to Tanner Hudson?
I'm like you said. It's just
I'm
a
done
phone
talking
call.
about the
Like
Tanner.
it's just.
I'm done talking about the Tanner Hudson thing, guys. Listen, it's bad. It's bad in Cincinnati right now. It's bad. It is waning faith for us glass half full guys like myself, because it seems like everything is going wrong together. When it seems like we're not winning anymore, when it seems like the free agent pieces that we bring in no longer hit, when it seems like we can't get a draft right, even though I think last year's draft was probably our best in the last 4 years since the Joe Burrow draft, the Joe Burrow, T. Higgins draft, Logan Wilson draft. Last year, I think I'm pretty optimistic about it. When it seems like nothing's going right, it's easy to spiral out. But I'll leave you with this before we take a break and start talking college basketball. Ask yourself, A, what you want that is possible. Don't just be like, yeah, I want Trey Hendrickson on a 4-year deal for $10 million a year. That's not possible. Ask yourself what's possible and then what you want. Do you want him extended for $30 million, which is what he's want and what he's going to ask for? Do you want him traded away so that you at least get something from his final year contract that it is a team-friendly deal? The Bengals have that. They have some leverage here because they've got a team-friendly deal over a really good player. Can you trade it away and get something in back and then, load up and see if you can get some mid-round picks and load up that defense for Al Golden's first year on the defensive side? And then the third one is, will Trey Hendrickson just play on this final deal? Make a run in the sun with Trey Hendrickson instead of extending him over an age 30. I think the most likely one is that he just plays, maybe misses a few weeks, but he plays. I don't know if that's the best course for the Cincinnati Bengals, but I think that's the most likely thing because I'll never, ever, 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 as much as I love them and as much as I have faith in them, I will never belittle the Bengals' ability to sit on their hands. It's a lot easier to not do something than it is to do something. Speaking of doing something, we're going to go to break. When we come back, we're going to bring on Paul Fritchner. We're going to talk college hoops, Xavier Muskies, March Madness. It's March. Here, get excited. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back on 1410 Wing AM Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Reed Mouse filling in for Justin Kenner. We got Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing, and Casey McAllister in the room. But we're going to welcome on the most knowledgeable college basketball guy in the Southwest Ohio region. And I don't say that about everyone. I haven't said that about Rick Brory, and I haven't said that about literally anybody else. But we got Paul Fritchner, host of the Rebound Rundown, one of the hosts of the Sean Miller podcast. Paul, welcome in. It's been a long time, but it's good to
Fellas,
see you.
it's great to see you. What's going on, guys? What's going on?
It's you seem in a chipper mood, and rightfully so, because your Xavier Muskies are playing good basketball at the right time. So I see the odds. Obviously, I follow you on Twitter. What is your percentages on Xavier making the NCAA tournament? What is your?
They got to win tomorrow. Yeah, they got to win tomorrow. They got to beat Providence. They got to I don't want to say they have to beat Marquette next week in the Big East tournament, but I would say if you beat Marquette and the NCAA tournament selection committee decides to leave out a Big East team that won 22 games overall and 14 Big East games overall, that'd be a real tough sell for me to say that team isn't going to make it into the tournament. I understand the quads look a little funky. They only have the one quad one win. I get that, but that's like the fourth most important thing that the committee looks at. I just have a hard time believing that this team would get left out. The one reason I do get a little nervous is just looking at how all these conference tournaments are set up. I think there are going to be a lot of bid stealers this year. If you get up like last year, there were 5. If you get up towards that 5 number and you're not safely in going into next week already, we just don't know where Xavier sits, right? We could sit here and try and predict all day long, but I would like to think that Xavier is in if they win tomorrow and that they don't have to do any work next week. But with the committee, it's such a crapshoot, Reed. You never know.
Yeah, I was going to say, if they beat Providence, they take care and beat Providence at home tomorrow, and there's 2-3 bid stealers, say, not an exuberant amount, would you say Xavier's in? Regardless of what happens at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, I would. A couple of the guys that I trust the most have Xavier pretty safely in the field right now. Like if you look at Bracket Matrix, which is maybe the best way to do it, is just an aggregate of every bracketologist. But I think like bracketology now has become like this niche popular thing that a ton of people are doing. So you're starting to see more and more people come into the fold on it. And I think because of that, I think there's like a hive mind read of somebody sees somebody put one team here and then another team, somebody else sees them put them in, and then everybody just puts a bracket together based off each other. I try to seek out the guys that are doing original good work, and a couple of the guys that I trust the most that have shown to be really good at this in years past. One of the guys even has Xavier avoiding Dayton right now. So for me, yeah, if you only end up having 2 or 3 bid stealers, like I don't see VCU winning the A10 tournament next week. They're the best team in the A10, but they generally don't win the A10 tournament when they are the best team in the league. So, if you're Xavier, you're hoping VCU wins that. You're hoping Drake wins the Missouri Valley. You're hoping UC San Diego wins the Big West. All those things to happen. And then, there's no NC State or Duquesne or anything like that.
One thing that I thought I got on Bracket Matrix yesterday, and the aggregate is truly impressive because I looked at, who's the most reliable, and it was this Yago or something like that. And I all right, let's go look at Yago brackets. It's a Twitter account with like 200 followers. And I was like, man, they get these things from all over the web. And then I looked at one, it was called Kirby. And I was like, wait, is Nick Kirby, is he a bracketologist too? So I looked at them, and it was just some blogspot post called Kirby Hoops. And I was like, wait, is Nick Kirby on this Bracket Matrix? So I want to ask you about the Big East tournament. And something that as a Xavier fan I thought was kind of interesting is obviously UConn beat Marquette earlier this week to take the 4 seed. As a Xavier fan, I think, even though I think Marquette might be a better team than UConn, I think playing Marquette at Madison Square Garden, where UConn normally has a huge fan base coming in from Connecticut, I feel like that's a much easier game. Do you share that opinion?
Way better, way better. If you're a Xavier fan, you absolutely – well, not only that, Reed, but even on the court, I think Marquette is a better matchup for Xavier than UConn is. If you look at how UConn's playing right now, Terrace Reed is having a monster end of the season. Liam McNeely's playing better. Alex Caravan had a great night the other night against Marquette. So because of that, you're saying, all right, maybe UConn's starting to figure things out. Maybe they're turning the corner. Marquette, I think Xavier matches up pretty well with them. They lost by 2 at Cintas. That was without Zach Fremantle. They won at Marquette with Zach Fremantle. They don't really have that true big that scares you like UConn does, or even like St. John's does and Zuby Ejiofor. The Marquette matchup for me is a great one for Xavier to ask for on day one. I mean, there's obviously better ones if Xavier was a little bit of a higher seed and you're playing Seton Hall or DePaul. But as far as what Xavier is in position to do next week, I would much rather play Marquette next week than have to play potentially 2 road games in a row of UConn, and then if you win that, St. John's on Friday night.
Let me take you back a month ago. Super Bowl Sunday, Xavier goes to Philadelphia and loses at Wells Fargo Arena to Villanova. Did it feel like it was dead then? Because obviously they've won since then. Did it feel like it was dead? Because that was a pretty big gut punch at the time.
I didn't want to say I don't want to say that the season was dead necessarily, because what it felt like was this almost insurmountable task to know that you had to win out. Right at that point, like after they lost at Creighton, I felt pretty confident in believing that this team needed to go 9-0 to feel comfortably in the tournament. And if they had gone 9-0, they would be comfortably in the tournament. I did think 8-1 kept them very much in the conversation, which is exactly what's happening right now as long as they beat Providence tomorrow. So when I saw Xavier lose to Villanova that day and the way that they lost, where it was just a lackluster performance, didn't have a ton of effort, not much energy in the crowd because everybody was across the street celebrating for the Super Bowl that night, it just felt weird. And it felt like, can this team, even though they're playing the bottom of the Big East, even though the rest of their schedule, their last 7 games outside of Creighton are all winnable games, can they actually just put together 7 straight winning performances? And since that Villanova game, they're playing as the 10th best team in the country. So because of that, you would say, hindsight's 2020. I felt confident that this team had the talent to do it. I was concerned that they would have a letdown game somewhere in there. And barring one tomorrow on senior night, which I just don't see happening, Providence they're healthy, but they're banged up at the same time. The fan base is all turned on each other. The vibes are pretty low. Like, it would be a shocker tomorrow if Providence walked into Cintas and won that game on senior night. Xavier's going to be probably close to a 10-point favorite, if not more. So for Xavier to go from where they were on Super Bowl Sunday, realizing they pretty much had to go 7-0, to now being on the doorstep of going 7-0, it's pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, being a 10-point favorite on senior night in a game you must win isn't as big of a lock in Cincinnati as we might hoped based on what has happened this week across town. But the final question I got before I pass it over to the local Bearcat fan, Elliot Rearing, is...
Oh, yeah. Contract extension. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's the thing. When you do college football, when they do the selection committee, it's a lot about how the team looks. But there's so many teams in the NCAA tournament that it's kind of hard to do that. It's kind of hard to say, like, oh, this team looks really good right now, as the Xavier Musketeers do. And another thing is that Zach Fremantle injury came at probably the worst time it could have come at. Right? The 4 games, 5 games, whatever he missed, where you had to win one of those games, and they just simply did not do that. Do you think that Zach Fremantle's injury, the timing of that, is going to go into what the selection committee looks at when picking this team? And do you think the way that Xavier's playing right now is something that they'll look at?
I think it could. I think it absolutely could as far as the injury goes. I think you're absolutely right. So he missed 3 games, and they lost 2 of the 3. They won the Seton Hall game, but Seton Hall, one of the worst. They are the worst team in the Big East this year. The 2 games they lost, Reed, like you pointed out, was at UConn in overtime and then home against Marquette. Both games that you then went and won when you played those teams a second time. Mm-hmm. And they were close losses. It's not like they went and got blown out. Like if you're in the committee room and you see that Xavier lost by 30 at Marquette and lost at home, at UConn, and lost to Marquette at home by 18, then you're like, all right, would Zach Fremantle really have made that big of a difference in either one of those games? But you lose in overtime in a game you might have won with Zach Fremantle at UConn, and then you lose at home to Marquette. Now, on the flip side of that, UConn didn't have Liam McNeely in that game either, so maybe that balances itself out. The thing I don't know, Reed, and this is what I would love to know, is how granular the committee gets on all of these teams. Like, are they really sitting there? Are these 12 dudes sitting in this room really getting into the weeds of all of this? I would like to think that they are. I would hope that they are. But the other thing you have to keep in mind that I keep being reminded is that this is a television program. The tournament is a television program at the end of the day, and they are trying to put the best product possible into the tournament overall. I would love to think that Xavier is a better product right now than the 12th or 13th best SEC team that might find its way in. Do I trust the committee to do that? I would like to hope so, but you have to win tomorrow. Look, this is all a moot point if Xavier doesn't beat Providence tomorrow. I think they will. I think we can talk about this like they will, but I just, the committee says they don't, in the last 10 or 15 years, they don't look at how you finish a season. But for example, I was doing the show last night and you're looking at Nebraska, who's lost 4 in a row. They've lost 5 of their last 6. They're backing their way into the tournament, potentially could lose on Sunday to Iowa at home, versus a Xavier team that will be racing into the tournament on the backs of 7 straight wins. And the other thing we haven't mentioned, Reed, this team is playing 19 spots better in the last month than the next best Big East team. They could just go win the Big East tournament next week and seal it up anyway.
Speaking of winning the tournament, the conference.
Oh, hey, Elliot.
Hi, Paul. How you doing, bud?
I'm
Paul,
doing great.
Paul's always the first guy to text me when UC loses, so it's always good to see your voice talking college basketball, and you made me feel good this whole entire season, and that's a
I was
fact.
just trying to be a nice, comforting sounding board to you.
Yeah.
That if you needed to vent, you knew you could find me.
When you send out the annual or the daily UC just lost a game that they shouldn't have lost tweet, how big is your smile?
It's not. It pains me. It pains me. You know why?
Yeah.
Because
Why?
every single day I stay up until 2 a.m. covering all the local Cincinnati area teams on a Daily Digest college basketball show. And when one of those teams loses, it doesn't help the listenership. So when one of those teams lose, it's tough on the listenership, especially when Cincinnati loses in the way they did the other night.
Paul, you're a great guy. You're a great humanitarian. Let me go over this. The conference tournament. I have a theory that they don't matter at all. When you play a game in the conference tournament, it doesn't matter. When you're looking at a bubble team, when you're looking at the University of Cincinnati, who, by the grace of God, is somehow still on some next 4 out, first 4 out garbage. How many games would it take for the committee to say, all right, maybe they deserve a shot here? Or is it completely null and void? They already have their bracket made.
Cincinnati has to win the Big 12 tournament to get into the tournament. Because I would say that for really any team, you have to do your work before you get to conference tournament week. Now, could it where I don't want to totally put my flag in the sand on that is that if there are 2 teams right on the razor's edge of maybe one team loses early in the week and one team picks up a quad 1 win and they're deciding between the 2, then maybe, that helps. I don't want to completely write it off. But the selection committee gets into a room, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, whenever it is, and they start evaluating teams into Friday. I mean, you think about it. If a team's net moves enough Thursday night into Friday and they've already voted teams into the field, whatever it is, those things aren't updating. I don't even know if they have a tool that updates them in real time. So what I mean by that is you can't rely on conference tournament week. 3 years ago in 2022, Texas A&M won 3 games in the SEC tournament. You've probably heard me talk about this, but they've won 3 games in the SEC. I keep saying this point. It's so true. They won 3 games in the SEC tournament, Elliot, and we thought they would avoid Dayton. We thought they would be maybe the bottom half of a 10 seed, maybe one of the last 11 seeds to not play in Dayton. They got left out of the tournament. That was the team that Xavier beat to win the NIT title. They didn't even make it in at all, and we thought they would avoid Dayton because of what they did in conference tournament week. So when I saw that, I said to myself, look, if you're Xavier and you beat Marquette next week to get another quad 1 win, and that takes you from 1 to 2, that's a significant jump to double your total. But at the same time, I just don't want to trust anything that happens in conference tournament week. More bad can happen in conference tournament week than good unless you just go out and win your conference tournament.
Is this the worst year? Maybe not the worst, but one of the worst years in recent memory where the bubble just feels like it's completely uncompetitive. Like there's no shining stars. I know Xavier's in the bubble, so we'll excuse Xavier out of this conversation. But it seems like the bubble this year is drastically underwhelming. Oklahoma's still in that conversation. Arkansas, a team that I don't think's played very well this year, still very much in the conversation of making the tournament in the field as of now. Do you think it's bad, or do you think it's just our reaction?
We go back and forth on this, and I think the thing that we sometimes get caught up on in the weeks leading up to the NCAA tournament is how weak the bubble is. Like, I feel like we have this conversation every year, and where the bubble gets tighter is when bid stealers happen. Because let's say, like for last year, we'll take last year as an example. There were five bid stealers last year. You think back, like I mentioned before, Duquesne won the A-10 last year. NC State, they won 5 games in 5 days to win the ACC tournament. They went on and went to the Final Four. You could go on and on. My point is, when 5 bad teams are on the bubble that then get knocked out, you start to see 10 seeds slide down into those Dayton spots because other teams, get left out or whatever it might be. So right now you're looking at the bubble, and in bracket matrix, the bubble is VCU, Arkansas, Ohio State, Indiana, Oklahoma, Boise State, Nebraska, Xavier, and North Carolina. UNC, if they don't beat Duke tomorrow, I have a hard time believing that team gets into the tournament. Maybe they do. Maybe the committee likes it for a brand. I just have a hard time seeing it. Nebraska's backing their way in. If they don't beat Iowa on Sunday, get them the hell out of my tournament. Boise State's got Colorado State tonight. If they lose to Colorado State, get them the hell out of my tournament. Oklahoma, I'm actually okay with Oklahoma. I'm one of the people on the other side of that take. Everybody's screaming about Oklahoma's conference record being terrible. I get that. But I'm actually on the other side of that because I think their metrics and their resume isn't as bad as it just might look when you first see their record. So I'm okay with Oklahoma having that conversation at least. But, like, Indiana, they're going – Mike Woodson's not even going to be there in 3 weeks. Get them the hell out of my tournament. Ohio State, I'm fine with.
You hate my Hoosiers. That stinks. You hate my Hoosiers, and I hate them.
I don't hate your Hoosiers, Reed. They need to move on. They need to get a new coach. The transfer portal opens in 2 weeks. Get them out of my tournament.
They can get Wes. Have Wes.
They still own Perdon't, so
they still own Perdon't. That's
true.
Right. I got 2 more questions for you, Paul. Number one, I think this is a point that upsets a lot of college basketball fans, and it upsets me because as somebody who likes college basketball more than college football, there have been less unique winners in college basketball than college football. This year, obviously, it seems pretty damn top heavy with Duke and Auburn. If you had to make a bet right now, I'll give you Duke and Auburn, or I'll give you the field. Who are you betting?
I would probably take Duke or Auburn just because they are they are so historically good. If you threw Florida in there, I think I would be even more sure of that. I just think one of those 3 teams. I'm trying to convince myself that this could be the year for Houston because they're so talented offensively this year. That's what they've been missing in years past is they love to win that like 52-48 game in the NCAA tournament. You saw them get bounced against Miami 2 years ago where they just couldn't score. I'd like to think that this is Houston's year to win, to go to the Final Four, to win it all, to get Kelvin Sampson that title. I just think that for as much chaos as there could be this year because of the parity of the sport, I still think in the end it's going to be one of the Duke or Auburn teams that is not just good this year, but historically good in the last 30 years of college basketball.
That's fair. And I'm probably going to place a wager, a large wager on Duke. I'm gonna believe in the Duke Blue Devils this season. But good.
Well, the one thing I could say on Duke, though, is that they've been playing in the ACC for so long and they've been beating up on really bad ACC teams that, maybe they get into the tournament and something happens where, they're not playing great and somebody picks them off in like the Sweet 16. But, the other thing, too, sorry, I know I'm going on. You guys are getting me on a roll here.
No, please.
We're on actual radio now, so I don't want to like overshoot my slot here. But you look at like the 8-9 seeds right now, right? Which a 1 seed would play in the second round. The 8 seeds right now on bracket matrix, Mississippi State, BYU, who's one of the hottest teams in the country, UConn, the 2-time defending national champions, Gonzaga, one of the best metrics teams in the country, and then the 9 seeds, Creighton and Vandy are in there as well. It's like, hey, look, You got a 1 seed.
Oh,
You
yeah.
got to play the 2-time defending national champs to even make it to the Sweet 16. That's where maybe the top seeds could get tripped up a little bit. I just don't see it happening, but I could hear an argument.
2 quick last questions here. Number 1, your bubble Cinderella team. Give me one bubble Cinderella team to bet on.
To make the turn, like
No. Just to go on a miracle Final Four run. Give me one team.
like a George Mason or like a VCU.
Yeah. Give me something.
Okay.
Give me something to bet on.
I'll give you a couple. I'll give you
Okay.
one that's more. I'll give
All
you
right.
one that's more mainstream. If you've been following college basketball, this is an easy answer. But if you're just picking up the sport, UC San Diego is a ton of fun. They are a very, very good team that'll probably, if they win their conference tournament, they're out of the Big West. They will probably end up as like a 12 seed. That's one. Another team I'm very much looking at, and maybe the most fun mid-major team, is High Point. They score at an incredibly, incredibly high level. Their offense is electric. High Point and UC San Diego are 2 teams that I'd be looking at because both of them are in that like 12 to 13 seed range that could win games. UC San Diego's metrics are incredible this year. Put them in. Like, I would much rather see UC San Diego get into the tournament than like Indiana or Arkansas or one of them.
I agree. And my last question comes from your good friend Mouse Cop. What are the roads looking like driving up to Indy?
Oh my God, dude! If I
that show was hilarious.
so I didn't even go back and like re-listen to the pothole segment. It legitimately sounded. So one of my friends texted me and he goes, "Paul, I thought you crashed your car, and the only reason I knew you were okay was because you uploaded the show." I mean, that was terrible. I thought I popped the tire or something. Please fix your roads, Indianapolis.
That's all right. The west side of Cincinnati, I drive on River Road every day, and I'm not kidding. It looks like meteors have hit that road, and I have to drive and swerve. They've got cones out on like the middle of the road. People are just knocking over the cones. They don't care anymore. We're just driving away and trying to break all of our cars down. But Paul, that's it from me.
Paul, thank you so much for being on the show. We got to go to break. Good luck to our Muskies
right.
tomorrow. And
All
good,
in.
And good luck to my Hoosiers as well. Thanks, Paul, for coming on. We're going to take a short break. You're listening to 1410 Wing AM. Welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Reed Mouse filling in for Justin Kinner, coming back on the road from the Ryzen League tournament. Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing, Casey McAllister in the room. We just talked a lot of college hoops. That was a good tidbit from Paul Fritchner, host of the Rebound Rundown. It's a daily digest show covering all the sports. Really, you should listen to it. It gives you all the information that you need. And then also the host of the Sean Miller podcast. He's really great at what he does. I'm serious. I was on Bracket Matrix yesterday looking at what different brackets had Xavier in it. And I'm just going around. They rank how accurate the brackets are on Bracket Matrix. So I go to Yago is what it's called, Yago Brackets. And it's literally a Twitter account with 300 followers. And I followed him. In fact, you know how it tells you like how many people follow this account?
Yeah.
I was like, no, Paul doesn't follow him. Kirby doesn't follow him. Rick, all these guys that I've followed, nobody follows them. And they're the top ranked Bracket Matrix bracket. And I'm going through and I see one called Kirby. It's just called the Kirby bracket. And I click on it and it's a blog spot, just like a personally ran thing, and I know Kirby has, if you guys don't know this, on top of being a huge Cincinnati Reds fan, Kirby does a lot of stuff in college basketball as a Twitter account and stuff like that. I was like, is it Kirby? I know you're listening to the show. Please tell me if that's you. Because I went through this whole blog, this whole website, and they put out a bracket every day.
He's got a Twitter account.
That's
Kirby
what Kirby Hoops.
Kirby Hoops that I look at every once in a while. But yeah, honestly, if Kirby is like a shadow bracketologist, that might be his greatest gift to this world, because that would be hilarious.
Pretty mad if
Why
he's
is
been
that?
a shadow bracketologist this whole time and he hasn't just been feeding us insider information on betting on teams to make the tournament.
Well, listen. Kirby's, I think, a professional gambler. I think Kirby's beyond us.
If you guys don't get in the Discord, everyone. If you just like it kind of robs you of the fun of gambling, because sometimes the fun of gambling is just like going with your gut and like, I knew I was right, and just going on the whirlwind. My boy Kirby, I think, put in the Discord, he's like limited or banned by like 4 books now because he just keeps winning so much, which is just insane. That's honestly the greatest compliment you can have if you're a gambler, is someone telling you your game's too good here, sir. Like, I always imagine that about like I don't know if you've ever watched like counting cards videos on YouTube, but like if you do it long enough, someone will tap you on the shoulder and just be like, hey, you need to leave. It's not illegal. You're allowed to do it, but they also have the right to kick you out of the casino. So like if you win long enough at counting cards, they'll just come up and tap you like, hey, your game's too good. You're doing too good. I don't know how they determine that, but that's got to be the greatest compliment ever, is like, hey, you're too good of a gambler for us. We're not taking your money. We're not taking your action anymore.
I'm on bracket matrix right now, and I just like to see wherever they'd rank Lenardi. Any guesses? I'll give you a hint.
I'll give you a hint. It's 120
not,
brackets.
Huh?
I think he's probably like in the 70s, 80s.
He's 118th out of all bracketologists.
I think that's the last bracket, right? That's 118 brackets.
No, I mean, I don't know how this thing works. It looks like there's 179 in the running here. So he ranks 118th out of 179. Taking home last place is RTS ratings.
He's
178. All my sports teams suck.
Is this not the dream job? You are the face of something you invented, and you're terrible at it.
Terrible.
You're not even close.
Well,
you went to sleep last year during conference championships.
His graphics always look the best.
Do they?
Well, they're the most you're familiar with.
They're posted by ESPN.
You're right. They're familiar. You're
They
familiar
look like
with
they were
them.
made on a Google Doc.
Yeah, they're terrible.
Yeah, they don't even look
highlight stuff.
It's him, Mel Kiper. They have the benefit of working at ESPN, who still to this day is the biggest sports media brand. They just are. They're the first one to do 24/7 sports, which was thought of to be a joke when cable first started. Like, you're going to just cover sports? What? And they did it. And Mel Kiper and sorry, his name.
Joe
Lunardi were the first to do the draft mock drafts, and they're the first to do the bracketology. So they get to do it. They're just going to be the biggest in the sport for doing those things. Like Mel Kiper's draft is never that good.
No.
But he just was the first to do it. So you listen to Mel Kiper, and same with Joe Lunardi. And it is interesting because even guys that are pretty well adversed in college basketball understand that Lunardi's not that great at his job, but it still means more when you are.
That one means the most.
Yeah, like being in the bubble. You're like last 4 in. Like, that means something. Yeah. Oh, we're on Lunardi's now. Like, because there's so many brackets out there. If you're around the bubble, like, you can probably find one that you see still hanging around as like the first 4 out.
Where's Neil Payne got him? 75, 80%?
Neil Payne, man. I mean, I know he's being used by ESPN to write articles. I think I don't think he's a full-time employee, but boy, those calculations were made up. I don't know where he got them. 88% making the tournament after losing like 6 in a row, not scoring 50. But all right, we'll take it. I'll take it.
You know those Facebook posts that are just algebra equations, like PEMDAS equations? You ever see those? What's the answer to this? And then you see like 500 comments and like half of them are wrong. Neil Payne's math on how he got to UC being 80% in a month ago after losing like 4 straight games, that dude had to have been on those Facebook posts and just be like, I don't know how to do PEMDAS at all.
Yeah, not at all. Not even a little bit. Poor guy. He gave me a little bit of hope. Paul just kind of crushed it there, but maybe there's a chance. Who knows? They got to get hot, win the whole thing. Yeah. Other schools can do it. Why can't we? Georgetown did it. They didn't win any games. Georgetown won the Big East.
Yeah, that was a crazy year. That was Patrick Ewing's first year, right? I think that was Patrick Ewing's First year at Georgetown, they're like, we've got something here.
Gave him like a 9-year extension after that.
Yeah, well, now he's gone.
Now he's gone.
Now he's gone. Georgetown, that's a team that St. John's figured it out. St. John's figured it out in the Big East.
Yep.
I'm hoping Georgetown.
I saw a couple Bearcat accounts tweeting
boy.
about Pitino, just locker room speeches, pictures of him on the sideline, just saying we could have had this guy.
We could have.
What?
We could have. We could have had him.
John Cunningham, when Wes Miller and whatever his name is, now I'm forgetting his name because he's so bad. Satterfield. He
Big
went
Sat.
Wes Miller and Satterfield, just barely slipped through his fingers, Dion and Pitino. They wanted to be in Cincinnati, man.
Man, UC Athletics.
They wanted to be here.
UC Athletics.
We do have a little bit of breaking news.
Oh.
Reds didn't screw it up. Reds screwed it up last year.
Oh.
They didn't screw it up this year. Opening day starter, Hunter Green.
Okay.
Nice.
I was waiting for Frankie Montas, but they were going to find a way to bring him back, start him on opening day. Not going to have it. It's Hunter Green on the bump. Thank God.
What was worse, Frankie Montas starting opening day?
I think he was pretty good on
He was
opening day.
fantastic.
He was
No,
like
no.
nails.
I didn't answer the. Listen, if you ever watch Jeopardy,
No.
if you press the buzzer too soon, you're gonna look like a goof. You're gonna look like a goof. What was worse, Frankie Montas starting opening day, or us as fans and people in the local media not doing our due diligence on how to pronounce his name before opening day?
Montas?
Because it was all over the place going into opening day. I remember even Kirby was just like, I don't know, moon toss.
We're gonna be a bad spot here if the Reds ever trade for Luis Robert.
Oh, can't do it. Can't do it. I said Muntas, Muntas, and Montas at various points during the course of last year.
It's like speaking in a different language.
Oh, it is.
And you just gotta rush through it. And hopefully, it sounds close enough that you're like, oh, I know what you're saying. Like, Frankie Montas.
Oh, yeah.
You're very confident on the toss.
You emphasis on the Frankie and the toss.
Yeah,
Frankie
Montas.
Montas. That's what it is. That's what it is.
So, yeah. Hunter Green, opening day. Who do we got on opening day?
Giants.
Yeah, it's a Giants.
Giants. Reds killer Willie Adames comes back to town.
Yeah, it'll be a tough couple weeks. To
Reds
start
schedule.
off. Then it gets a little bit easier in the back half of that month.
They're gonna beat me down right out of the gate. They're gonna put me through it. I'm gonna have to figure out how to navigate.
I'm just asking to start. I'm just like last year it was bad.
Yeah.
I'm asking to start. Give me 1 month of happiness right off the rip.
That'd be cool.
I want one of my sports teams to just start hot one time. That's all I want.
Starting
One
hot
month.
against the Giants, Rangers, Brewers, Giants would be pretty sick.
That's what I'm saying. Like I'm gonna buy. You know how in I'd be bought in if you come out of all those series with wins. My God, I'd be the most bought in Reds fan of all time.
The Reds and the Cubs have a really tough April.
Do they?
Yeah.
What do the Cubs got?
I mean, we play a lot of American League teams. We play the Dodgers in the first, obviously, first 2 games, and then play like the Rangers a couple times. Like, there's a lot of teams. I think we're done playing the Dodgers by the end of April.
Wow.
So, like, yeah, I think both teams got a tough jump out the gate.
You do.
So I'll leave you with this before we go to break and end the radio portion of the show. The Giants have two crazy streaks going on, and they're both related to Barry Bonds.
Oh, boy.
They have had a different left field starter every year since Barry Bonds retired. They have not had the same guy
How is that right?
play left field on opening day 2 times in a row. Reminder, they've won 3 World Series in the last 15 years, and they've had a different left field starter.
That's crazy.
Even crazier, they have not had someone hit 30 home runs since Barry Bonds.
Wow.
That's not right.
Yeah, they have not had someone hit 30 home runs since Barry Bonds.
No way, dude.
Buster
30
Posey
home
never did
runs?
it. Brandon Belt never did it. Hunter Pence never did it. Pablo Sandoval never did it.
How far is it to that right field? Don't get me wrong, it's a pitcher's ballpark, but that right field, I feel like
Right field's short.
Run field, one.
Right field.
That's
well,
what I'm saying.
420 to deep right center. Red center's not short, but down the line is short.
I was gonna say down the line, no lefties hit 30. Yastrzemski's never done it. I thought Yastrzemski came up and hit 30. Damn, that's wild.
Yeah. Yep.
Who's the last Red to do it?
30 home runs.
30?
Had been
Suarez?
Joey Votto hit 39.
Yeah, you're right. It was probably Joey
Joey
Votto.
Votto hit 39 a couple years ago. So, all right, that does it for us here on the radio portion of the show. We're gonna keep it here in YouTube, so be sure to join us. Reed Mouse filling in for Justin Kenner. Kenner will be back on Monday. Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing, Casey McAllister. We thank you for listening to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, 1410 Wing AM. Welcome back to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. We're going to get to a special Friday segment here in a little bit. We are going to do chat power rankings. Elliot Rearing is going to take you through that. We are going to, normally I would let this go as long as we just sit here and talk, this YouTube portion, but I do have to get to Oxford. We've got a Miami softball tournament, and there's like 9 games going on in Oxford this week. We got baseball. It's got a 3-game series. So we got to hop off here right around 12 o'clock. I was just telling these guys about the Cubs schedule to start off this. And I know you guys don't care, but it's just crazy that the Cubs might be in peril after their first month. They go Dodgers, Diamondbacks, Athletics, Padres, Rangers, Dodgers, Padres, D-backs, Dodgers, Phillies for the first month. Like, that's a gauntlet. And the Reds isn't much better. They go Giants, Rangers, Brewers, Giants. Then they got a 3-game series against the Pirates, who, depending on who you get, I mean, like, you get the back end, okay, but you get Paul Skeens for a game. Good luck. Then they play the Mariners, the Orioles, and then they get a 6-game stretch against the Marlins and the Rockies. That's a tough first month too.
Listen, the first month as a franchise who once started, I think we were 3-20, one of those David Bell years, or maybe it was the year, but maybe it was the last Brian Price year. The first month of the season sets the tone. That's an impossible schedule for the Cubs. That's a gauntlet. The Reds, I think, less so than that, but. Boy, it's just start out hot. Just start out hot. Everybody can start out hot. It's possible. I would hate to play overseas, too, to start my season. I wouldn't even count them as games. Those 2 games wouldn't count. Well, if I missed the playoffs by a half a game, I'd be in.
Well, that's what sucks is the Cubs are going to be missing 2 starters. Two starting. Nico Horner's not going to make the trip. And then it's likely that Matt Shaw isn't going to make the trip, who was going to be our starting third baseman. So we're going to be throwing out, like, John Birdie at second base and Justin Turner, 40-year-old Justin Turner playing third base. So it's gonna be interesting. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna wake up at 4:30 on those games. They play at 5.
Okay.
So I'm gonna wake up at 4:30 to watch the Cubs play, and my wife is going to hate that, especially if the game is tight. I'm hoping they just win 1. That's in 2 weeks. We are 10 days away from Cubs playing regular season baseball, which is really, really interesting. I'll be honest, we did an hour of Bengals talk. I'm very good at compartmentalizing my fandoms. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone knows that I'm a Xavier fan, but, like, they're the third by far of the 3 teams that I root for. I don't worry about Xavier till, like, the first of the new year. I mean, there's 2 months of games that I, like, it's whatever, until the Bengals are done. And when the Bengals are done, then I'm into Xavier. And then I'll worry about the Cubs until they're out of it, and then I'll start focusing on the Bengals, and then so on and so forth. Like, I can't multitask when it comes to being a fan. Like, I can't do the Bengals and the Cubs at the same time. I can't do the super fan of both of them. It's hard for me to get super up in arms about the Bengals stuff, knowing that opening day is right around the corner, and I like baseball more than anything. So.
Yeah, I'm at the point now. I'm not an NFL offseason guy. I'm not a draft guy. So this portion of the Bengals season's like, I usually don't care. Obviously, I have to care now because of 2 of our best players in the Bengals. But I am more of a Reed thinking in that logic. You know, and when the Reds are on, I'm not really into the Reds. I think usually, I know it sucks to say, but once it hits like August, September, like my brain turns off for Reds. I'm focused on NFL. NFL, I'm locked in. College basketball, again, you don't really lock into college basketball unless your team is playing like in Maui or something fun. So
you worry about that rivalry game, like obviously the
there's an exception. That's really the start. That's the start of the season.
But then conference play is what gets me in. Like I worry about that game.
Yeah.
And then conference play.
Yeah.
Until then, it's just like
that's when my season starts. Right around the cross town, and then you're in. But boy,
it is palpable to just like you can notice my attention for the Xavier is not on par with my attention for the Bengals and Muskies. I would say the similar thing for you and the Bengals. Like you care way more about the Bearcats and the Reds, and then the Bengals. Like hopefully they're good. but you're not losing sleep over these contract debates or anything like that.
No, not really. I wish I was. Again, the Bengals broke my brain a long time ago, and I think that I've become a little bit more numb to it. I still watch every Bengals game. I still get upset at every Bengals game where they lose, but it is certainly like the Trey Hendrickson thing doesn't hit me nearly as hard as it hits Casey. Nearly, like not even in like I saw that Trey Hendrickson move, the news, put my phone down. It's like, all right, that's fine. That's how it's going to be because I feel like I know the Cincinnati Bengals pretty well, and I feel like I know how their organization runs, and it doesn't shock me at anything they do. Literally, not one thing. Even when the Joe Burrow contract stuff, the drama was happening. It's like not shocked at all that we haven't gotten this done yet, and then we finally get it done. Like, oh, okay, fine, good. They did it. They did their job once. It's I don't get really excited about it. So, but that's just how I am.
My problem with the Bengals is I have way too much faith into Joe Burrow.
It's a
far
problem.
too much faith.
It's a problem
to Joe Burrow, to where I just go like, I mean, and it proved not to be true this year. It literally proved not to be true. I was like, if 9 is healthy and playing well, the world is our oyster. And that happened this year, and it was more of a poison clam.
You think they went to Joe and were like, "Do you care if we do this?" Like, how involved do you think Joe Burrow really is? After the media tour thing, I thought he was not involved, maybe as one would think, because he wouldn't be doing that if he was in close conversations with the Cincinnati Bengals at all times. But I like it's a move like this that confuses me, because I feel like he said he wanted it done, and then so quickly the Bengals openly don't get it done, and it's like, how, like, you're treating Joe Burrow, the guy that you need to be good, that we all believe in, that you have to believe in, and it's like you're not giving him what he wants. How's he taking that? So I'm very curious to the dynamics of the Bengals and Joe Burrow's relationship.
That's a fair question. Listen, I think I've got a different take than most Bengals fans, even with like as much respect that I like as blindly I follow Joe Burrow and the Bengals as I possibly can. I still don't want Joe Burrow to beat Aaron Rodgers with the Jets. Like,
no.
I like that worries me. And I think he's got a much different personality. He's obviously in the prime of his career, but that somewhat worries me that he can just walk into the room and be like, I want this, demanding stuff. I mean, if he's good at it, right? You hope, but then you just hope that he plays football and, you know, like the front office does their job. That's the way that the best organizations are ran, is when the front office is really good at their job and they do it. When the quarterback is really good at his job and they do it. The coach is really good at his job and they do it. When you start to mingle it and someone has to do something else to make it all work, that's when things start. That's when the house of cards starts falling apart.
Yeah.
So.
And by the way, I one of the pros for Trey Hendrickson, I forgot to say this today, and we kind of talked about it a little bit, but not a ton. The Bengals' defensive line picks since signing Trey Hendrickson in 21: Joseph Asai, Tyler Shelvin, Cam Sample, Wyatt Hubert, Zach Carter, Jeff Gunter, Miles Murphy, Chris Jenkins, McKinley Jackson, Cedric Johnson.
I think there's a couple good players in there. I really think that Joseph Asai, Miles Murphy, Chris Jenkins are guys that can be productive players. I really believe that, truly believe that. Obviously, you're not going to find a Trey Hendrickson anytime soon.
The point is just like you're letting a guy go who you're going to have to replace, but I don't know if you're gonna draft talent that's you can replace him now.
No, you can't.
It's also assuming he's still Trey Hendrickson at 31.
Correct, and that's the other thing too. I saw the Joe Goodberry tweet or whatever he had this morning, or it was the scene from Moneyball, and it was, we can recreate Trey in the aggregate. They haven't been able to draft well. I mean, you guys said a couple names there, but how are we going to find 17.5 sacks?
The thing is that's not possible.
Right.
Yeah.
Trey Hendrickson here is not getting 17.5 sacks next year.
Correct.
Just probably won't. Probably. I mean, he might. He might, but probably won't. Like, we will. That was Trey Hendrickson's career year. That's the best it'll be. Probably.
Yeah.
So it's just not likely. It's like a 34-year-old slugger hitting 40 home runs. And you're like, we can't let 40 home runs walk out the door. Well, it's like you're probably not letting 17.5 sacks walk out the door. You're probably letting 12, which is still great. Borderline elite walk out the door. But,
that's fair.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. There's a lot to be seen. And it's worth, you guys keep bringing it up. It's, what did 17.5 sacks get you?
Nothing.
Nada.
Not a thing. Not even a Defensive Player of the Year award, which is criminal. But
I think, well, I have a different take about the Defensive Player of the Year, Jamar Chase winning Offensive Player of the Year. I would have been so embarrassed. I would have been truly so embarrassed if the Bengals had the Comeback Player of the Year, a top 4 vote getter in the MVP, the Defensive Player of the Year, and the Offensive Player of the Year, and not made the postseason.
that would have been tough.
Like, I'm actually happy that they didn't win those awards. As crazy as that, like, I know that's bad. You're taking joy away from guys like Trey Hendrickson. I'm sorry, but that would have made me feel so icky to look back at the 2024 season and go, oh, we had Triple Crown winner, Offensive Player of the Year, Jamar Chase. We had Joe Burrow getting MVP votes, one Comeback Player of the Year, and we had Trey Hendrickson win the Defensive Player of the Year and lead the league in sacks. How'd the Bengals do? 9-8.
9-8.
9-8. 1-8 against playoff teams. 1-7 against playoff teams.
Yeah.
I think is what it was.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's it. We'll talk more Bengals, I think, in the coming days here.
30-year-old edge rushers traded on the final year of their deal in the last 2 years. All but Hassan Reddick, who was obviously a unique situation with his holdout, garnered at least a second-round pick. Khalil Mack was traded for a second-round pick, number 48. Von Miller was traded for a second and third rounder. Hassan Reddick was traded for a third rounder. So I think that is the realm we should be living in for Trey Hendrickson. A second and third rounder, maybe a second rounder this year and a second rounder next year in best case scenario. I think that's kind of where we're living there. 2 day 2 picks as the ideal situation. I saw a lot of replies saying first rounder or don't move him. Don't hold your breath. There's not a soul out there that's going to give you a first rounder and then extend him. So we're gonna be looking at a second round pick if they move on from him.
I'll set the benchmark for where I'll get pissed because I'm always the optimistic guy. I'll set the benchmark of where I go full Casey, and that is if we don't get at least a second round pick and we trade him and we get.
You'll give him the whole second round.
What?
You'll give him the whole second round.
No, I'm saying.
I'll
go Casey. Yeah, like
back at like 32 in the second round.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm saying top
50. Top 50.
Top
If we don't
50 is
get a
my
top
line as
50
well.
pick for Trey Hendrickson, I'll go full Casey.
That's my line as well.
I'll go full Casey. I'll start yelling every time that the Bengals extend our punter or some guy that wasn't even a conversation. It was just like, hey, this is what we're offering you this year, and then they sign it. I'll get upset and we'll go full Casey.
I think we've mistaken or misconstrued where I'm upset with. I'm not upset with the trade. I'm not upset with Trey or the compensation. It is what it is. I mean, I'm in alignment with the second round pick. Trading Trey makes sense. You weren't going to pay him 35 or even 32 or whatever $1 million. It's the fact now that the reports of where Jamar Chase and T. Higgins are, and the franchise or like the front office has 2 or 3 days to figure it out before free agency, before like you might be going into the year worse than what you were last year. That's the path that they're heading on in 3 days.
Let's do a 48 hours AE episode of the next 48 hours in the front office. Like instead they got 48 hours to solve a murder, we got 48 hours to get these deals done, or else this city's gonna implode. The crew building going down.
Do we think that they will sign? Like, if the plan is to trade, do you think that they'll sign a guy to replace him without having Chase done? Like, will they sign a Josh Sweat or Milton Williams?
I don't know.
I don't think so. That's my point.
But I don't think they're going to sign those guys if Chase is done.
But that's the point, though, is that they're not even going to get the mid-level guys either. They're not going to get the Chase Youngs. They're not going to get the Levi Unzariquez or Jonathan Allen or Javon Hargrave, whoever you want to throw out there. They're not going to get any of those guys until they get Chase and T done.
Steve Ross reporting, Ian Rappaport reported that the Bengals have made progress with Higgins.
Said that last night.
Okay,
Yep. Look, until I hear numbers, I don't care how disrespectful Ari Mirov makes the offer sound. I mean, he might think $30 million for T is disrespectful. I don't care what disrespectful means to every different person. I need to see numbers before I, determine how far apart and how disrespectful the Bengals are being. If they're offering, Trey Hendrickson $30 million a year and he's taking that as disrespect, round of applause to the Bengals for not going up to 35. So
Yeah.
I think these are very unique situations with all these receivers. Jamar has emphasized that he wants $40 million a year. If they're sitting at 37, 38, and he's calling that disrespectful, again, not on the Bengals. So I think a lot of this is, we need information, and that's why Bengals fans are always at a disadvantage, because no one that makes decisions for our team talks to anybody, and we don't hear what's going on like other teams hear what's going on. But Andrew Berry of the Browns has talked to the media 4 or 5 times about the Myles Garrett trade, what their plan is, holding on to him, what they're hearing offers-wise. We hear nothing from the Bengals except for lies during the combine. So I think that's the most frustrating thing, is we don't learn when other teams learn information.
That's right.
All right, we got chat power rankings.
That's right.
Elliot Rearing has curated this delightful little list of,
That's right.
of your guys' performance in the chats. Elliot is noticeably very harsh. He keeps them nice and short. He tries to make Elliot take it away.
Yeah, here's my list of honorable mentions, and it's 20 people deep. So hang with me here. This is why I don't do it, because I don't like to upset people ever. It's my biggest fear in life. So I'm going to read these names off, and again, know that I love you, and it's going to stay that way. It's just this week specifically, I have made my top 5. You are on the honorable mention, and I love you. Number 1 of the honorable mention, AJ Worse, then David Shaw, Sean Connor, Nate, Everett, Chase, Mo, Matt Bailey, Ron, Optimistic John, Harry, Mike Ackley, Chatterbox employee, and Kevin. All of you guys are on the honorable mention this week. Thank you very much, and I love you. And if you want a hug, come hug me. Now we get to the top 5. Now this is serious business. So for the first time ever, this is a first-time Chat Power Ranking ever appearance for the Amazing Fetus. Congratulations, Amazing Fetus. You are in the Chat Power Rankings this week for the very first time in your young career. Just became a member, so shout out to the Amazing Fetus. Good work.
What is amazing about the fetus?
I don't know. Elliot asked him if he was a burner, and he DM'd Elliot a picture of his ID.
He sent me a picture of his license, and thank you very much. I now have that
stand-up individual
in my house.
No question.
It's on the wall right over here. Moving on to number 4. Number 4 this week's Chat Power Rankings. It's Molly.
It's a great lower third.
It's Molly. So everybody, congratulate Molly. She's a legend. She's been here forever. Sometimes she gets a little bit horny, and that's okay. We love her anyway. And we move on down the list. Number 3. This is Podium finishers. Blackmore. Congratulations to Blackmore. Blackmore's had a very good couple of weeks. He deserves to be on the podium. So nice work there. Now this is
Blackmore.
Huh?
What was the noise we used to make? Whoop whoop.
We did whoop 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 whoop. Now moving on to number 2. This is going to be controversial because he's the most negative human being perhaps in the history of the world. But here's the thing about his negativity. It's always there. He will never miss. He's always present. And though I think he hates all of us very personally, in a deep personal way, and likes that we've probably never experienced in our lives, I'm still going to give him number 2 this week because he shows up. Attendance is everything. Congratulations, Mouse Cop. You are number 2 this week. I didn't want to do it, but I have to. Based on the amount of chats per capita that you send, you're just number 2. You do a good job, Mouse Cop, in attending, even though you openly hate all of us, I think. But that's okay.
Has there ever been a 180 more than me and Mouse Cop's relationship?
Yeah, there was. He was picketing outside of.
I picketed outside of his work
Okay.
because he used to always say fire me, so I picketed outside his work. And look at us, we're buds now.
Best friends in the whole wide world. And number 1, I hate to go chalk, but you guys know I have to go chalk because he, just like Mouse Cop, he's always there. But he's always there for every stream that we've ever done, no matter where we are, no matter what he's doing, no matter what time of the day. Mark Fetters is there. So, Mark Fetters, you are this week's number 1 Chat Power Ranking. Whoop, whoop. Thank you all. Thank you guys for watching the show every week. We love you more than you know. So, thank you guys very, very much.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, whoop.
We're going to have a fun show Monday as we're going to be talking about T. Higgins and Jamar Chase's extension, probably Trey Hendrickson's extension too, Tanner Hudson's extension, Evan McPherson's extension. I don't know. We'll just keep it on. Joe Burrow's actually going to take less money. He's going to play on a vet min.
Yeah.
Nice.
Going forward, so we can pay for everyone. And he's just gonna swipe up some marketing dollars. How much money do you think Joe Burrow leaves on the table from endorsements?
Leaves on the table.
I
Like,
bet you
you're
that
talking like he's
Joe
not-
Burrow
he's-
turns down.
I think he's probably one of the
Endorsements.
higher endorsed quarterbacks in the NFL.
I know, but I still think that there's a lot more endorsements that he. That
Oh,
he
how many
probably-
offers? Okay, I get that.
I
I get
bet
it
he
now.
turns down quite a bit.
I
Yeah,
bet.
but I assume that's everybody. I mean, I think anyone at that level is probably getting a bunch of offers.
But I bet
he's the face of ALO and
like there's
body armor.
I bet there's Patrick Mahomes, and then after Patrick Mahomes, it's probably Joe Burrow, second in the NFL.
Josh
with-
Allen's probably up there as well.
I bet Burrow gets more offers than Allen because I
I'd
think
agree.
both handsome guys. Both
Burrow's-
from
What is
small
Allen?
towns.
What's Allen on?
What?
I'm just thinking like what brands are Allen the face of?
Yeah, I don't know.
He's in some. Is he Under Armour?
Is he? I don't know.
He's at one of the sportswear brands. But I
I mean,
I would be-
Mahomes like owns Adidas now.
I would be willing to bet that Joe
yeah,
Burrow
he owns Adidas.
Joe Burrow leaves close to 8 figures on the table in endorsements because I truly think that he doesn't like doing too
Promo,
much.
yeah.
Like I don't think I truly think that he likes just like focusing on football, being quiet, doing his thing, having a supermodel security guard. I think he likes those things, but I think that he doesn't want to just do commercials all the time and stuff like that. I bet you he leaves like 8 figures on the table.
Josh Allen's mini endorsement deals include Nike, PepsiCo, New Era, Frito-Lay, Hyundai, Verizon,
he is New Era.
Anheuser-Busch,
That's a lot.
Microsoft, Paramount. I
That's
mean, I'm
awesome.
sure
No,
if we
saying,
looked
what
up like
is
Good
it?
for
Joe Burrow,
Microsoft.
it's-
Yeah.
Josh Allen. When I think of Microsoft, I think of Josh
Yeah.
Allen.
Yeah.
That's a good endorsement.
My last nugget, real quick of the day. This is my last thing. Cincinnati Bearcat just tweeted this one out. Thank you for your support at Fifth Third Arena this year. Please renew your season tickets for the basketball team.
That's good timing.
Thank you very much.
Speaking of, that was your alma mater's tweet. My alma mater, Bluffton University, has had a tough 2 weeks. President resigned.
Oh, no.
We were doing a merger with another university where we're going to be combined universities. Findlay and Bluffton were going to be combined. Findlay backed out once they saw Bluffton's financial.
Oh no.
Oh God.
And the interim president just had to make a statement saying that the school isn't closing.
That's usually good.
Please send in money.
Oh no, Reese.
So the over-under on Bluffton University, they also might go back to being Bluffton College. Like they might no longer be a university.
Would you stop? Too big of a change for you? You went to Bluffton University.
That is true. That is true. I'm giving the over. If Bluffton College University makes it to the year of our Lord 2030, I will be shocked. I'll see you guys when I see you. This is Off the Bench.